Good morning and welcome to the chapter 10 of the discussion today, which deals with evaluation, feedback and rewards. The objective of this chapter is to discuss about the different techniques of performance evaluation, to focus on the performance evaluation feedback, to deal with the reinforcement theory and model of individual rewards, and to see how rewards affect organizational concerns, and to deal with some innovative reward system. So, this whole discussion will be spread through 2 lectures, and now in the present lecture we are going to cover the performance evaluation and the role of feedback for performance evaluation. Now, when we are concerned about performance and how it is related with the reward system, we first need to know like why rewards are given in the organization and how it is connected with the performance of individuals, like why these two things, evaluation, feedback and rewards, are discussed under the same heading. Rewards are given in the organization firstly to motivate employees and attract and retain employees. So, these are the main things, like when you see a very attractive reward given in the organization, the compensation given, so it attracts talent towards the organization. It helps the talent, the top performing individuals, to remain within the organization, and it motivates people also to perform better. This is we think like reward is for this purpose, though questions, we will deal with questions later on, like are all reward, like when you are talking of designing of a proper reward system or reward management techniques, then how far it is, like the ways as it is present now, how far it really deals with the performance and increases the performance level of the employees present in the organization. As far rewards are concerned, rewards, the way of giving rewards, it varies from organization to organization. The principle that organizations follow in rewarding employees, it may vary from organization to organization, it may vary from industry to industry, and within the same organization it may vary from the different levels and for the different types of jobs done. Also, like some people have different rewarding techniques, like it could be like universal in nature, or it could be related with the functions of seniority, or it could be linked with the performance, job performance of the individuals. So, based on these things, when this is the purpose of reward, and the main purpose of the reward is of course like we want to give reward. Why? Because we want that the performance of the individual improves. So, we find like these two words, rewards and performance, are moving like hand to hand, and for that reason we need to, in order to link reward with the performance, we need to have a proper performance evaluation, so that we can actually evaluate performance and then get to know like what reward, proper reward to be connected with the results of the performance evaluation as obtained. So, based on that presumption, we are going now to discuss about the performance evaluation and different types of performance evaluation systems and techniques present in the organization. Now, when we are talking of performance evaluation, we need to understand what is the nature of performance evaluation and what are its purpose with what this evaluation is used in the organization. So, when we are talking of what is performance, performance of the individual is a function of ability, motivation and resources available to perform the task and direction target set for the job. So, if you just move through this definition of performance, it is very important to concentrate on the points like the resources available to perform the task and direction target set for the job. Specifically, resources available to perform the task, because see in many cases while we are talking of performance evaluation, we generally we attribute the lack of performance we attribute the cause to the performer, to the person who is being evaluated, and without taking into consideration whether that person had got adequate resources, help from the organization to or whether the situation is conducive enough for him or her to reach the target set by the organization. So, when we are defining performance, it is we have to keep in mind like it is both a interaction of the personal factors along with the situational factors and given and contextual factors present in which the job is being performed. That is why we try to define performance as the combination or as the function of the ability, motivation of the individual along with the resources available for doing the job and the target set for a particular job. Now, when we are talking of performance evaluation again, purpose of performance evaluation may be of two kinds. One is of which is judgmental in nature and the other which is developmental in nature. Now, we can clearly understand, like when you are talking of judgmental in nature and the developmental in nature, we are looking for two different things from what we expect from the performance evaluation. What we are looking for when we are doing a performance evaluation. When it is judgmental in nature, when we have to reach to a conclusion whether someone is a good or bad performer, then what we are trying to do is we are trying to focus on the past performance of the individual, and we are trying to make a comparison of the past performance and the present performance now, and it helps managers to evaluate training programs and decide on like how the rewards should be distributed. So, you have already while you are talking about judgmental purpose of performance evaluation, a performance has already taken place and you are evaluating that past performance and you are trying to design like how it should be rewarded. So, it provides a basis for like reward allocation, and it helps you to identify highly potential employees, high potential employees. So, and also it validates like whether the selection process has been correct or not, because you take someone with the expectation in the selection process that this person is going to perform well, and your performance feedback also evaluation results tell okay, this person is performing well. It validates your selection process and it also evaluates your previous training programs given, so that you can conclude that the improvement in performance could be due to the training given to that person in that specific area. So, these are the judgmental purposes of performance evaluation. When we are talking of developmental purposes, it is more like future oriented in nature, and we try to seek to improve future performance by clarifying the expectations and identifying the training needs. So, it helps this purpose of performance evaluation, it helps to identify the obstacles and develop it stimulates performance improvement by developing ways of overcoming obstacles and performance barriers which are present. So, and it identifies the training and development opportunities, and the supervisor and the employee, they establish an agreement on the what to establish from the performance and the target setting. So, these are the developmental purposes of performance evaluation. Like when you set a target, you jointly decide like what the target should be and how far a target you can reach. So, it is future oriented, and the judgmental perspective is more past oriented when we are talking of performance evaluation. There are different methods of performance evaluation, as you can see from here, and it is either two types like behavior oriented rating method and result oriented rating method. So, when you are talking of behavior oriented rating method, you are more focused to the expected behaviors in a particular type of job, and when you are talking of the result oriented rating method, you are more focused to the result, the task at hand, and what is the expectation that you want, the target set, and what you expect from that job. So, what is the outcome that you expect from it. So, there are two main classifications, the behavior oriented rating method and the result oriented rating method. Behavior oriented rating method again has two subdivisions to it, the relative rating method and the absolute rating method. And again the result oriented rating method is classified under two headings, management by objective and work planning and review. So, here we will slowly move through each of these types of methods of performance evaluation and try to find out like what are the positives and negatives of each of these methods of performance evaluation. So, when we are first discussing of behavior oriented rating method, so and we are talking of relative rating system, and the two most important relative rating system, first one is ranking and paired comparison. So, in ranking and paired comparison is one, like it is good for in ranking there is a difference between when you are talking of ranking and paired comparison. So, we can just see the difference over here. While we are talking of ranking, suppose there are 5 individuals, in ranking what we do, we rank them as first, second, third, fourth and fifth in hierarchically in order of importance. But so, what we do, we try to make a holistic comparison and try to find out who is 1, who is 2, who is 3, who is 4, who is 5 among the 5 individuals. But when we are talking of paired comparison, we are doing here what we are trying to do in paired comparison is we are trying to compare all the 5 individuals in pairs. Like 1 we cannot compare with 1 and 2 you cannot compare with 2. So, the diagonals you find like it has been blocked, because these are the same individuals to be compared together. So, irrespective of that, what you are trying to do over here, first we are comparing 1 with 2 with respect to certain attribute, and then we try to find out and we take the judgment from number of people, and we find out like when 1 is compared to 2, like whether 2 is given a more ranking and or 1 is given a more chosen as a better performer when we are comparing 1 with 2. So, if 2 gets, some people may tell okay 2 is a better performer than 1. So, we will put a slash over here, but when if somebody tells okay no 1 is better than 2. So, we will put tick over here. So, in this what happens while taking judgment from n number of individuals about the performance level of 5 individuals in paired comparison, what is the advantage of paired comparison is that we get to compare each pair separately, like 1 with 2, 1 with 3, 1 with 4, 1 with 5, again 2 with 1, 2 with 3, 2 with 4, 2 with 5, 3 with 1, 3 with 2, 3 with 4 and 5 and so on. So, it makes the comparison more in detail, and at the end what we arrive at is a generalized ranking scale based on these calculations done over here, which is a bit complex than when you are talking of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranking, which is done just like one compared with everyone together or the individuals compared at a single point of time, and then we get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranking hierarchically instead of comparing them pairwise like this in between. So, whatever it is, whether it is ranking or paired comparison, whichever way we take it. So, what happens, it is good for making comparison across the employees, like you can tell like who is better than whom as far as your paired comparison and ranking is concerned, but it provides little information about the basis of for individual feedback and development. It just tells who is better than whom, but what is the feedback about each of these individuals that you cannot get from a paired comparison. Next is when you are talking of the next relative rating system, which is the force distribution. In force distribution, what happens? It forces the rater to make distinction about employees, like either, because what happens if sometimes we give a Likert scale in choosing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where 3 is mainly the undecided category. So, in order like some people while doing the rating, what happens, because they do not want to tell something adverse about some employees in certain of the qualities, what they try to do is just choose this undecided category. But at the end of the rating, this undecided really does not tell you anything about whether the employee is good or bad at certain aspects. And so, in forced distribution, what is happening? You are forced to, by the choice given, like either yes or no. What happens? You are forced to choose either of these responses, and you cannot, like there is no uncertainty and vagueness zone as like this of undecided. So, what happens, like it forces the rater to make a distinction between or among the employees, but it may be unfair when across employees, if a group when you are trying to use this across a group, maybe in certain cases it may be inaccurate comparison. So, if you are using it for a group purpose, because see, unit of analysis over here is the group, not the individual forming that group per se. So, if the group in totality is either effective or ineffective, so no matter who contributes what to the group, but when the group is the unit of analysis and you see like it is the effective or ineffective in nature, then forcing a choice like which employee is a better performer than the other one may be unfair, because what is the focus of evaluation is the group and not the individual performance. Maybe each of them have contributed in their own way and to the group performance. So, we have to just see like whether we can use this forced comparison technique over there or not. Next, behavior oriented rating method is of course like graphic rating scales, which are the called bars, including behavioral anchored scale, which are called bars. These are easy to use and provide feedback for individual development. It facilitates the comparison across employees, but it facilitates the comparison, but it does not define clearly the dimensions, and the scale points are not defined clearly. So, what happens over here, like when you are just using a graphic rating scale, suppose you have an attribute over here and you are measuring that with respect to a 5-point scale, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. The disadvantage over here is that you have not defined what is 1, what is 2, what is 3, what is 4 and what is 5. So, these are just numbers that you have written. You have defined an attribute, something, some quality that you want to measure, and you have put in the scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 without defining what behavior, if done to what extent, will be 1, done to what extent will amount to 2, then 3, 4 and 5. So, what happens? These degrees are not, as it is not absolutely stated the degrees. What happen? Different raters may have different mental pictures about what amount of performing this particular behavior will amount to, will be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So, whatever is 1 for someone, for one of the raters, the performance level 1 could be 2 or 3 for someone else, and whatever is 2 and 3 for some people, it could be 1 for others. So, the mental picture, the scale, the scaling level may vary from rater to rater, and it is very difficult to tell like whatever like one, the ticks that you get under 1 from different raters is exactly due to the level of performance which is 1, because the perception of 1 itself is varying from rater to rater. The more strict that the rater is in defining, or the high standard that the rater has about the performance of that particular task may define what level he or she chooses as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, here we find like in graphic rating method, so as these dimensions are not defined clearly and scale points are not defined clearly, some ambiguity in your results may appear. Next is development on this is behaviorally anchored rating scale, in which this one you try to define this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with clear specific behaviors which denotes the level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. the difficulty of these bars is it is like very time consuming to develop, but it yields, once developed, it is more specific and more objective than behaviorally anchored than your ordinary graphic rating scales. So, when we are talking of absolute rating system, we are like, so these were your relative rating system, where we try to compare different individuals, different employees together. But when you are talking of absolute rating system, so we are trying to get narrative essays from individuals about their performances. So it is good for individual feedback, but when there is no comparative platform to compare employees based on certain parameters, then what happens, it is very difficult to compare individuals. So absolute rating system, which is in form of narratives, is good for individual development, but it may be difficult for employee to employee comparison. When you are talking of behavior checklists, behavior checklists are easy to use and provide a direct link between your performance appraisal and job analysis, because in job analysis you try to develop what are the required tasks to be performed, or what are the, if it is a competency based job analysis, then what are the competencies required for a particular position, and in this behavioral checklist you just go on ticking whatever the competencies has been expressed by that particular individual. So it can be numerically, it can be scored and facilitate also comparison across employees. So, but again these response categories, because it is again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sort of, the respondents could like the raters could make different meanings of what is meant by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the like what amount of that performance is really 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and people may vary again in their opinion when they try to interpret a particular behavior based on these response categories. When you are talking of critical incident, which is a very important way of measuring performance, so it focuses directly on the job behavior. So it again focuses on emphasizes on what employees did that was effective or ineffective, like some critical incidents that happen, and which some good and some bad. So, and to find out like the importance given to it. So, it, and the in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many times it has been repeated, and all these things may lead to performance evaluation, but it is very time consuming to develop. Like the behavioral anchored rating scale, critical incident technique is also very time consuming to develop, and it is very difficult to define critical incidents which is going to reflect certain types of attitudes or behavior patterns. So, it is time consuming, but once developed it gives you a better picture about the performance of a particular individual. When we are talking of result oriented rating system, so here what we are more focusing into the results that is obtained after the performance, and like how you achieve those results. So, one of the major techniques of course is management by objectives. So, what you find over here is it focuses on the management by objective, focuses on the end result, and each individual contributes to the success of the unit or the organization. It is a short term oriented in approach. So, but it like it focuses few insights into the employee behavior, but like how a person is doing certain things and what are the moves he is taken for fulfilling that objective, but it does not like facilitate comparison across employees because what we get to measure over here is whether the target is what type of target a person sets for himself, whether it is given to him by the leader or the follower and the leader both sit together to set the objective, and how far that person has reached that target and in what way. So, it is rather employee specific based on the objective set for that particular person. But when it comes to comparison of two employees, it may be difficult to do if the target set for the two employees are different from each other and the circumstances they are working in are also different from each other. Work planning and review. So, what it focuses on results, it again emphasizes process over outcomes. So, what it requires is more supervisor and subordinate reviews of the work plans. So, one-to-one discussion with the subordinate regarding how a target is to be reached, what are the deviations at the present point of time, what corrective actions needed to be taken, and then what you achieve is through constant review is the target to be achieved. Now, because it is so much time consuming and because it requires one-to-one interaction, so for this proper implementation it does not facilitate comparison across employees, because the more interaction you are having with a particular employee in reviewing and work planning, the better it is for that person's performance. But it is not very sure like whether you have been able to give the same time to all the employees or all employees have similar type of problems. So, there are so many factors which leads it to tell like it does not facilitate the comparison across employees. So, what we try to tell over here is that effective performance evaluations are it is not a one time affair. Performance evaluation is a never one time annual sort of affair, but it is a continuous ongoing process. It is a continuous ongoing process where we generally ask two questions. So, first one is of course, is the work done effectively? That is the primary question that we ask, like is the work being done effectively? And second is like are the employee skills and abilities being properly utilized, because if somebody remains underutilized in the organization or somebody is overutilized in the organization, in both the situations it may have negative consequences on the employees. So, two primary questions: is the work being done effectively, how do you measure it and what feedback do you get about it, and of course, are all the employee skills and abilities being fully utilized. So, effective performance evaluation, for performance evaluation being effective in nature. So, it is very important to translate the job responsibilities into daily activities. So, whatever is the job responsibility of a particular employee, it has to be translated and articulated into daily activities sort of. So, which people, those activities if done means like they are performing their job well. Sometimes what happen in performance evaluations, we have like some questions, or in engagement questionnaires also we have some questions like my employees contribute wholeheartedly to the organization. These are I dedicate my full self to the organization, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points given for it, and you have to tick in either of these points, like whether you give your full self, wholehearted self to the organization's performance or not. But actually these are very difficult to tell, because the question is itself not well mapped with the activities, like what if done will denote that the person is giving his wholehearted contribution to the organization. So, what is the primary requirement for developing a good performance evaluation form is to translate the expectations of the job, which in terms of job responsibilities, into actions which if performed to some degree as stated will lead to the fulfillment of these job responsibilities. Next is helping employees to understand and develop these responsibilities and recognize, relate them to the goals and recognize accomplishments. So, next is employees should realize the importance and of the responsibilities and develop responsibilities. So, and relate them to the goals, like what is their responsibility and accountability in a particular task, and how it is related to the goal of good performance of the department and of the organization as such. And their performance have to be recognized well. So, their accomplishments have to be recognized. So, research has generally shown that recognition is a very important tool for employee performance. So, because everybody wants to be recognized within his peer group or in the society. So, third point is really important from that perspective. The second point on when you are talking of recognizing accomplishments. So, third is, while you are talking of giving feedback, sometimes what happens, instead of giving feedback on the task, we try to criticize and critically discuss about the individuals. So, it should be kept in mind, like when we are talking of certain task done, performance. So, we should be focusing on the performance and the how it is done, and not on the employee performing that task. And we have to weigh the relevant behaviors like appropriately. So, whatever is related to perform a better task, those behaviors should be grouped together and rated accordingly. It is not that like one get like over attention and the other factors get like it does not receive any attention from the rater. So, if some relevant behaviors are there for performance, then it should be weighted properly based on their order of importance. The relevancy in evaluation is how far it is relevant is, it has 3 aspects when you are talking of relevancy. first is when you are talking of deficiency. In deficiency, what happens? We are not able to focus. In deficiency, we are not able to focus on all aspects of the job. So, what you are doing is we may be focusing much on the one aspect, and we are giving less attention to the other aspects of the job, though it is very important aspect. So, to come out of this, we need to have a competency based job analysis where we can focus on all the knowledge, skill, abilities, personality patterns and situation specific variables which are required to perform a job in a better way, or which defines the role and the individual's expectations and individuals contribution to it in a much proper way. So, this deficiency or the failure to focus on all aspects properly will be corrected to certain extent. Next, when we are talking of contamination, which is the another next important thing in this relevancy, is contamination is where we are focusing on activities which are not a part of the job. So, if there is a proper job analysis done, this error reduces to certain extent, because we get to know correctly what are the activities that are required for performance on a particular job. So, and distortion is when we give improper emphasis on different job elements, like for performing a particular type of task or for performance some aspect of the job which is more relevant. So, rather than the other aspect which can have a lesser focus, but when you are talking of distortion, then maybe what we do is we focus on a given wrong emphasis or improper emphasis on other job elements. Like if you are trying to define what is the role of a teacher, then maybe the primary role of a teacher is of course the teaching to the students and their overall development, and maybe checking of accounts or something, or maintaining budget sort of thing could be, it is a part of their job responsibility, no doubt, but it is not the primary focusing thing. And so, what happens if when you are discussing like whether someone is a good teacher or not, we give more emphasis on the second one and less emphasis on the teaching abilities and teaching hours spent and the process of teaching, etc., which should be the central theme of the job of the teacher, then what you are doing is we are distorting ourselves from the main purpose of the job evaluation and performance evaluation per se. What we can do to improve evaluation is first, of course, increasing employee participation in the evaluation process. Now, there is again a point of debate regarding this, like when we are talking of increasing participation of the employees in the decision making process, research has proved that this may have an effect on the satisfaction level of the employees with the job, but it really does not show, it is not proved very much. Like if you are participating in a decision making process regarding setting your own targets and evaluation process, it does not always mean that you are also going to perform well. So, research does not have any very concrete proof about this to tell, like if people are involved in participative management means like they will be better performers. Second is setting specific target or program goals for the individuals, and they can sit together and come to a consensus. Also, giving the evaluators training, this is very important. So, we cannot go for evaluating without understanding what are the barriers that we may face while evaluating, what are the reservations of mind that we have to shed before we are going for performance evaluation. Some stereotypes we may be having about certain persons, some positive negative attitudes that we may be having about certain persons should be kept aside while we are going to judge the performance of the individual, because these factors may influence the decision making process in performance evaluation. So, communicating results to the employees is also one of the important factors, so they can lead to their development, and focusing on the good performance as well as focusing on the performance problems, what went wrong, why it went wrong, how it can be corrected, sort of things should be told over there. Next is when you are talking of we have to conduct evaluation centrally and like informally, and then throughout the year it should be done. It does not mean like once when it is a time for performance evaluation, then only you are doing it, and throughout the year you are keeping silent about it. It does not like help you in any way, because challenges in performance arise now and then. So, people's mind may interpret work situations in different ways by mapping with their abilities and capabilities and knowledge to do certain things. So, this interpretation, these ways of perceiving the task given to them and the effort that the employees put in bringing out that performance may differ from time to time. So, it is very important that the performance evaluations are done informally and throughout the year, so that any corrective steps taken could be taken at the first instance. So, one important part of performance evaluation is of course performance evaluation feedback. So, what happens in performance evaluation feedback is the purpose again is different in different cases. So, like it could be instructional in nature, where the areas needing improvement are clearly identified and needed, and what are the changes which are to be done are explained to the individual. So, it is mainly instructional in nature. And when it is motivational in nature, when rewards are provided to the employees as a part of the evaluation process. So, so you find like there are two types for the two important purposes of feedback. First is to give you a proper picture of how you are performing and what are the plus points and minuses in it, what you need to do at present and future to improve your performance, and how you can do it. These are the part of instructional purpose of feedback. When you are talking of motivational purpose, so what happens as a part of the evaluation process, when you get certain rewards or incentives which like reinforces the result that you have done through your evaluation, then it leads to a motivational aspect, and we will discuss this whole thing in the next lecture in very great details, the motivational aspect of rewards. A feedback to be appropriate in nature should be like it should like follow certain important points, like the feedback should be behavioral in nature. So, it should give a feedback on the employee's behavior. Next is it should be very specific. Example, like if you have observed something which needs to be corrected, please state that. So, proper statement about the behavior is very important, and specific examples for observations. So, and like avoid using words like you always do like this, you will never be a good one. So, these type of adjectives which generalizes the situation is to be avoided. Else what we have to do is to find out clearly state the part which part of behavior which needed correction based on the observations made. Third is job related. So, feedback is about behaviors which is expressed as a part of the job, not about other incidents from his life when we are concerned more with the work situation. So, another thing is timely response to the feedback. So, feedback should be given as soon as possible, because till then the memory of how you are doing a particular thing is fresh in an employee's mind. So, if there is more of time lapse between the actual occurrence of the behavior and the feedback received for it, if there is too much of the time lapse, then what happens? The wrong behavior due to that time factor may get repeated, and it may be then get imbibed, and it is very hard to change. So, sometimes it becomes hard to change. So, as soon as you find that something wrong is going and it needs to be corrected, then immediate feedback has to be given. Next is of course balanced. So, the way you give a feedback over here when you are balancing it is first to give a praise which is positive feedback, then you speak in very constructive terms about what needs to be changed and how you need to deal with certain situations, how you need to act in certain ways. All these things are put in middle, and then again through a positive. So, it will like when you are telling, like you are maybe directly someone you are not good at something, it may have a shocking effect, but that shock gets absorbed within this two positives when you are putting the negative or the improvement needed feedback, sort of whatever way you name it, in between two praises and positive feedback. So, that shock gets absorbed. Respectful is when if the feedback is more easily accepted, if the employees feel that they have dignity and their self-worth are kept intact. So, everybody wants that respect from the organization, and if you find like the dignity is not hampered and you can still view yourself worthy of certain things to be done in the organization. So, if a respect is shown in the way feedback is given, then that feedback becomes more acceptable to the individuals. But again, a word of caution over here. A word of caution over here is that there is like you may give feedback and tell about like someone needs to change, but that is again the intention, or the way you're telling about like this is the feedback and you ought to do these things, and this is how you should be performing, this is what is expected of you. These type of things are told in feedback, and this is how you need to improve, this is what you need to do. But with all these things told and the actual behavior being performed, there is quite a gap between these two things, like what you get in a feedback and how you execute that feedback to and take learnings from it and change. So, there is a gap between these two things, means the implementation of it, the acting out part of it, and the feedback given as such. And it depends on the organization and effort taken both at the organizational level and at the individual level, both, to see that the gap between the feedback given and the actual performance which is done after taking learnings from this feedback, after changing yourself according to the feedback given and modifying your behavior pattern according to that. So, it is a responsibility both of the organization and of the individual to make proper use of the feedback for the next performance that that is done, so that the performance also improves. Now, only when that is done, then we can lead to some we can utilize properly what is called the developmental aspect of performance evaluation, which is done to help the individual and the organization grow in certain aspects, make corrections, like you chisel your potentials and make and contribute more positively towards your own growth and the organization's growth. Then only the development aspect of performance evaluation will be more evident and vivid to the employees, and the reservations that people have in mind about the performance evaluation system, like as if they are put under a lens to be critically evaluated to get certain judgments about what you cannot do, sort of thing. Those reservations of mind will be away, and will be more positive towards the process of performance evaluation and accept it in our work life, and look positively towards the feedback given and try to modify the behavior pattern and work accordingly. And also the organization needs to give a wholehearted support and facility to take care of the feedback and use it in the proper sense. So, with that we end over here the lecture about performance evaluation and feedback, and in the next session we will move forward with the reward systems. Thank you.